Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Alyssa. Today we are making bread and I'm going to show you how to make 3 different gluten-free bread recipes. The first one is going to be a yeasted bread. So that's kind of like they're all sandwich breads, but it's kind of the more traditional route. We're also going to be making an almond flour based bread. So this one is on the smaller side, mostly grain-free, except we are using some quinoa. And then the third one is going to be a yeast-free bread that uses eggs and baking soda, baking powder, for the leavening and helping it rise, so we're not using yeast. I will say all 3 of these recipes do use eggs. I have not personally found a bread recipe that is gluten-free and vegan that works for sandwich bread. So if you have one that is working for you that you've tried, please let us know in the comments because I know there will be some questions about that. Otherwise, all of these recipes are up on the blog. I've linked them down in the description box for you, so if you want to make them, you can find those right down below this video. I'll pause quickly, invite you to subscribe if you are not yet part of our community. There's a red button right below this video that says subscribe. All you got to do is tap that button. Otherwise, let's go ahead and dive right in. Our first bread recipe is the high-protein quinoa bread. We are starting by adding some honey, you could also use maple syrup, into a glass of warm water and just stir that together until the honey dissolves. Then we're going to add in some active dry yeast, and you don't have to do this, but I like to give the yeast a quick stir, just make sure it's combined with the sugar. And basically we're just going to let this sit until the yeast blooms, and the yeast is essentially feeding on the sugar, so it makes it active and then it gets all nice and puffy. So we're looking for it to look like that, and you can set that aside while it's blooming and get your dry ingredients together. So the dry ingredients, we're going to add some quinoa flour, chickpea flour, sorghum flour, potato starch, as well as a little bit of guar gum, some sea salt, and then you'll stir that together or whisk it together just to get everything combined and even. Then we will add in our wet ingredients. So you're going to add in that bloomed yeast with the water and honey, and you can give that a quick stir. I recommend using an electric mixer for this recipe. You could also use a stand mixer if you have it. It just gets everything really nice and combined and make sure that the gum is activated. So once you have the water kind of mixed in there, it's going to be a little bit on the thicker side, but that's fine because we are going to add in 3 whole eggs as well as some oil. I'm using avocado oil here, but you could use any oil that you want. And you'll use your mixer again to just beat this all together for a good, I would say at least a minute until it's all smooth and combined, and it's going to be kind of like a pancake batter, like a thick pancake batter. Once you've got that batter, you can add in your mix-ins. So I'm using whole quinoa as well as sunflower seeds, but again, you could use any combination that you want. You could use poppy seeds, you could use basically whatever you want, or you could just leave it out. Fold that into the batter, and once it's combined, you are going to transfer it into a parchment-lined loaf pan. I actually like to use a taller loaf pan for my gluten-free breads. I think this is an 8x10, but I'll be sure to link the exact one that I use down below. It just helps with the height. And then we will set this aside and let it rise, and it should take about 20 to maybe 30 minutes to rise, and it's going to rise almost to the top of this pan. Once it has risen, you are going to pop it in your oven and you're going to bake it up until it is golden brown and cooked through the middle, and you should get like a kind of hollow sound when you tap it on the top. You can let it cool in the pan, and then you can just remove that parchment right from the loaf pan. Let your bread cool completely before slicing into it. This is really important. But look at the gorgeous height that we get. It is so pretty, and the texture of this bread is amazing. So once it's cool, like I said, you can just slice into it. And similar to other gluten-free breads, I really recommend that you store this in the freezer if you're going to keep it for more than a day or 2. Gluten-free bread goes stale really fast. So to keep it fresh and nice, I always slice the whole loaf up and then pop it in the freezer, and you can just pull them out and toast them as you want. But it has an awesome, awesome texture, a really nice flavor, and it's really also high in protein. And I personally love the seed mixture in there as well because it gives it a little nice texture. So this bread toasts up beautifully. I definitely like eating it toasted on sandwiches, so I'm just showing you like toasted with jam, but you can basically use it any way that you want. It is good raw as well, but I personally just like the texture of it toasted. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and let's move on to our second bread recipe. So the second one we're making is our almond flour bread, and we're gonna start with eggs. So this uses a lot of eggs. It uses 5 whole eggs, and we're just gonna add them into a bowl and then whisk them together until they are smooth. If you want to not use quite as many eggs, I think you could use 3 and add in half a cup of coconut yogurt or just a yogurt in general. I haven't tested it, but I think that would probably work because I've used variations of this recipe before. So if you want to reduce the eggs, you could try that, but this definitely is not something that you're going to be able to make egg-free. Once you have your eggs in there, you can add in your olive oil, apple cider vinegar, and a touch of maple syrup for sweetness, optional, but I just like that it kind of rounds out the flavor. Again, give it a quick whisk until it's combined, and we'll add in our dry ingredients, which is almond flour, quinoa flour, flaxseed meal, tapioca starch, coconut flour, a little baking soda, and some sea salt. And you'll fold that together until you get a thick-ish smooth batter. This is going to be more like a kind of thick brownie batter. It's on the thicker side, so it's not quite as pourable. And if you guys wanted to make this completely grain-free, I think what you could do is instead of using the quinoa flour, I would substitute it with chickpea flour. I think that would be a good one-to-one substitute, and that would make it completely grain-free. So if you're trying to avoid quinoa then, or grains in general, I would try that. So once you have your batter, you can transfer this into your loaf pan. I use standard loaf pan for this one, 9x5, but you could use a taller one if you wanted. It would give it more height. And always line it with parchment paper. That's super important. And again, we'll just bake this one until it is cooked through in the center. All of the baking instructions are linked in the recipes, so just look for those down below. Once it has baked up, just like the last one, you're gonna want to make sure that you let it cool completely before slicing into it. This is imperative for all of these breads. It really helps you make sure that you don't have a gummy center. So once it is completely cool, you can either do that on a wire rack or you can let it cool in the pan. It still has a really nice texture. It's very springy. I love the flavor of it. It has a very almondy flavor and a really, really nice texture. So again, this one definitely recommend you freeze it, and I also think that this one toasts up beautifully. So for this one, I toasted it up and use it for lunch all the time. It's really great because it's high in protein. So I spread on some hummus, top it with some avocado and some sprouts, and it's like, oh, my favorite kind of toast. It's so good. And then our last recipe is going to be our yeast-free, gluten-free bread. And we are going to start by separating 3 eggs. And the reason why we're separating them is we're actually going to be using the egg whites as the way that we're going to get the bread to rise and lift. So we're going to whip them. So just separate your eggs, keeping the egg whites in one bowl, the egg yolks in another bowl. Once you have them separated, you can put the egg yolks to the side and use either an electric mixer or a stand mixer to whip these together until they form stiff peaks. So basically it's gonna take, 30 seconds, maybe a little bit longer to whip them until they are stiff. And the air and the structure in the egg whites is what's going to, again, help our bread rise. So once you have your egg whites all whipped up, you can set them aside, and we're gonna get the rest of the bread together, and then we're gonna fold those in at the end. So the flour blend that we're using with this bread is going to be quinoa flour, sorghum flour, and some tapioca starch, as well as a little bit of baking soda, baking powder, guar gum, and you could also add in a sprinkle of sea salt if you wanted. Once you've got your dry ingredients into that bowl, just stir them together until they're combined, and we'll add in our wet ingredients. So we're gonna be using a little bit of almond milk, as well as the egg yolks, some oil, any variety that you like, touch of maple syrup just because it adds a good flavor, and some apple cider vinegar, which again is also going to help with the rise. Stir that together, and it should be a fairly smooth but kind of on the thicker side batter. I would recommend actually using an electric mixer here because this, you can see there are a little bit of clumps, so just use an electric mixer instead of a spatula like I did here because it works better. Once you have that smooth, you can add in your egg whites, and we are going to gently fold these into the batter. It's really important that you're gentle because you don't want it to deflate the egg whites too much. You still want them to have a little bit of air and structure. So if you've seen me make any of my waffle recipes, it's kind of that method. You're just gently folding them into the batter until the batter is nice and light and fluffy. Once you have that texture, you can pour this into your loaf pan. And I'm using the taller one again. I think, like I said, it's 8 by 10, I'm pretty sure. So just pour the batter directly into that pan, again, making sure that it's lined with parchment paper. And just like the last two, you're gonna just pop this in the oven and bake it up until it is cooked through in the middle. And you can see this one also has really, really great height. And it has a really awesome texture on the inside, very similar to the first one, but this one is yeast-free. So all of you folks who can't have yeast in your diet, this is a great option. So just, again, like the last two, I feel like I've said this a lot through the video, make sure that this is completely cool before you slice into it. And again, I would recommend that you freeze your slices or your bread in the freezer if you're gonna go beyond a day. But awesome texture. Look at that. Isn't it so pretty? Ugh, I just think it's like so good. And it tastes amazing with the quinoa flour. So again, toast this one up if you'd like, or you could make it however you want for sandwiches. But I was feeling the breakfast toast with this one. So I used to love growing up cream cheese and jam on toast. So I didn't have cream cheese or vegan cream cheese. So I decided to use coconut yogurt as my base. And then I topped it with some raspberry jam. And it was so good. Like, honestly, so good. If you guys have not tried this combo, oh my God, you have to. Next, I'm gonna add sliced banana on it and a little bit of almond butter, and it's like perfect breakfast toast. So hope you guys try it. Hope you love them all. They're all delish. And there you have it, my friends. I hope you enjoyed our bread video today. Let me know which one you're gonna make by dropping a comment down below this video. I'm really interested to see which one you're most excited for. All three are amazing. They are all a little bit different, but all three toast up really well. Like I said, all three are gluten-free. They're not vegan, but hopefully there are other options for you, those of you who don't eat eggs. Otherwise, if you do want to make any of them, I have dropped all three links down in the description box for you. So if you want to make them, you can just find those links right down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you go. Hit that little bell to turn on your notifications so you never miss another new video. And that's all I have for you. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you being here and taking the time out of your day to tune in. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.